Alright, alternate World War II. We're gonna do in this one. Manage, map config, 1936, pre-World War II. Why the frig didn't it change? 1936, yes. Okay, good. Alright, so, obviously, wait, let me just change so you guys know what I'm gonna be. And you have to go to, yeah, so we're gonna be Britain in this one. So, in the alternate, World War II, the Germans will lose, but it's gonna be like a different sort of thing. Also, for some reason I like having the map like this. So the first thing the Germans do is obviously remilitarize the Rhineland, but also before they annex Austria, they annex Luxembourg. Then Danzig becomes a free state, which then Germany just annexes. And Poland's mad about this, but they know they can't do nothing because they are starting to rapidly remilitarize. Anyways, back to here. Austria gives Liechtenstein, I think, why isn't Liechtenstein its own thing? That's my question. Because no way either this or this is Liechtenstein. That has to be Liechtenstein right here. But anyway, so Austria gives Liechtenstein to Switzerland, and then soon after, they're completely annexed by Germany. Then, they start just doing more in their industry before demanding the Sudetenland from Czechoslovakia. I think it's like something like this, maybe. So the Sudetenland has been taken away. Then, after a little bit, they collapse, and Hungary annexes that from them. And now that they became a German satellite, Slovakia has. Now after that, they demand this region because they don't no longer demand Danzig from Poland, but they demand this as well as this, so they can connect them. And they obviously say no because they want sea access. So the Germans declare war, and they instantly start pushing in. And Poland holds around here for a bit until they push from the south over here. And at this time, the Soviets join in. Lithuania gets some stuff back because they just join in. And Poland is eventually carved up like this. Now after that, the Soviet Union will obviously start annexing these countries. But before they completely do it, Germany gets Memel, but not the northern bit. But they're happy with what they got. Now, they do what they were gonna do, and they start invading Denmark and like the Nordics and stuff. And Denmark, as soon as Denmark would just surrender because they didn't. Because the reason why is because I don't think it's smart for them to do it, is because they didn't want to have many casualties. You could have just, what could be a better one? Evacuate all your, hold the line, and evacuate all your civilians and stuff, make it all barren, then evacuate your troops to here, which should help, hold it, and then when they were going to collapse, evacuate it to Iceland, you idiots. And that way you can help the British out, and the French and stuff. But no, they had to surrender. But anyway, back to this. They got pushed severely. And now, Italy joins, but France, since their military is better than them, pushes into here and holds it with like some British support, but British troops are mainly up here, like around Maginot and stuff, and like moving in from here. But then Germany declares war on the Benelux. Can I get these things? And so as soon as they heard that, they told Belgium to mobilize their troops to like around here, to just give up that and stuff, but to here so British troops can land there and help them instead of landing there and going up there. So they're like, okay, we can do that. Danish troops also have a task to holding these islands and supporting the Belgians here, and they're saying, okay, as long as we can hold. But that fails for the Danish there, as the islands are gone, but they managed to evacuate all their troops to, well, not really all, like some got captured, but to around this area, as well as some there to hold them off so defenses can be built. France has built a couple of forts here, but just like around a couple. But as soon as then Belgium fell, and they had good defenses, and then France was soon next, as Dunkirk actually was a thing. But while the Germans encircled those, the French started a major offensive to try and help them, and they managed to do that, eventually pushing them back to the border here. But they got pushed back because they were exhausted from doing that, and so they retreated from Dunkirk, and British troops were tasked to hold around here. But the Maginot was eventually encircled, and the troops holding there were destroyed. At this time, Italy was able to do a major offensive, eventually pushing deep into French land. They managed to take Corsica, but France was still fighting. Now, British troops eventually got encircled around here, and the French couldn't save them, so they evacuated with some French troops, of course, as well as Charles de Gaulle, because he was like right there, and he was tasked to retreat to here to help the British. And then the Germans couldn't take Paris, so they kept on just attacking the French down by here. And eventually they encircled all their army from the coast so they couldn't evacuate. But they didn't surrender, and they kept holding Paris. They retreated all their troops to Paris and built a massive fort there. And they kept on holding. Now, also, Italy has invaded them and then turned them into a puppet. and they've also given that to their puppet, as well as this from Yugoslavia. Well, Bulgaria got to annex some stuff because they were quick into annexing stuff. Germany got to have this, and then Hungary took the rest. Now, Hungary demanded the northern Transylvania, and they denied, but they also denied this region from being annexed by the Soviet Union, which the Soviet Union then invaded that bit and weakened them a lot, meaning that the Romanians were weakened again, and this time all of Transylvania was taken from them. Then their king was forced out of power, and a new fascist king was put into place. And meanwhile, Bulgaria did annex that. And then they joined the Axis. So now the Axis is basically all this right down by here. And Bulgaria joined too. But anyway, France was still holding here, but Germany had a big brain plan to draw paratroopers behind enemy lines, and then eventually Paris fell. Now, after the African colonies heard that, they just started panicking. But they also, and they just lost morale too, because they. And since there was a lossage of morale, Italy was able to take all of the coastal regions of the Algerian colony, forcing supply to come in through this region. And back, and then over here, Britain lost the Suez Canal. So supply from the Suez Canal was cut off. And then, since supply was cut off, the Nazis, Nazi Germany was able to take that island and then successfully do a naval invasion. Now, after the British heard this, they evacuated the royal family from London, and they moved them up to this region in Scotland to prepare for an evacuation up by here, because they knew German submarines wouldn't be up here, all the way to Canada. And that would have been a success. Meanwhile, British troops were doing a really good job holding. But eventually, a lot of troops were encircled. All of the London area fell, and Britain was going to collapse. I'm just gonna turn this back on. It's going to be heard. Wait. So while that was happening, the British asked, wait, what? This is Canada's a dominion. What, shouldn't it just be like a tiny bit of different color? Not the same color? That's weird. But anyway, so the British were falling, and there was nothing that they could do. Scotland was next. And Northern Ireland fell. And then the islands up by here fell. And Britain has fallen. But they do not give up there, as since the royal family still survived, they, let me just get the code real quick. Since the British royal family managed to survive, they still fought against the Nazis, and because of that, Britain joined France on becoming Free Britain alongside Free France. So they fought with with their with the colonies that they controlled, and yeah. So anyway, they did have support from Free France, which had there, as well as like over by here, which they managed to hold by building lots of defenses in the desert. But the British and the French came up with a genius plan to use their planes to bomb supply lines for them, and use paratroopers and to naval invade around by here, encircling these troops and cutting them off into like two bits. This battalion, this bit fell first before this one fell, and these ones were pushed back. And at this time, Germany was like, how are the Italians getting pushed back when we just literally destroyed the British, and shouldn't they have just surrendered? Well, the British fight to their death. They don't give up freedom. So eventually, Italy was pushed back to the coast of Africa, and back over here, they were also failing to gain ground, as France managed to push deep into their land, and the British managed to take Somalia from them, cutting off the Italian troops here, which were then eventually taken. Now back over here, the French managed to do a push there, but they couldn't really anymore, and they also lost their troops that were on that island that were encircled. Now Malta stood strong until the British lost it. Now at North America, since it's like 1940 right now, well, like 1941, the bombing of Pearl Harbor hasn't started yet. Germany was able to take Newfoundland and parts of Labrador, but they were pushed back, and they did manage to hold that for now at least, but not for long, because over in the Pacific, Japan has bombed Pearl Harbor, and the United States have joined in. So with their troops arriving in Canada, these troops are absolutely destroyed and absolutely executed. And after that, since the Allies still controlled up by here and stuff. Okay, that's Danish. Since up by here is still under Danish control, they managed to retake these islands, but Europe wasn't their plan for right now. But also at this, but see, the Allies only were able to do that because there were not many German troops there, because they didn't really need that bit anyway. But they were still holding here, and they couldn't win until Germany done something really stupid, which they did: declare war on the Soviet Union. Now the Soviet Union ended up joining the Allies, as well as it's with the Socialist Republic of Mongolia. Actually, I forgot about the Winter War, but that was the alternate peace treaty. Again, Leningrad was encircled. The Russians were pushed back even more. Romania got to have that back from them. Eventually, a lot of troops were encircled, but since Germany encircled a lot of those troops, it was hard to capture those troops. So while they were worried about killing those troops and stuff, Soviet troops managed to get those encircled Soviet troops out and save them. Now after that, Kiev was captured, and at this time, the Allies are like, I think Germany's actually winning the war against the Soviets. I guess we do not have anything that we can do then. We're just sitting ducks, waiting to die. But they basically just said that until winter set in, and it was a stalemate, except for a few pushes that the Soviet Union done. And after when the other members of the Allies saw that the Soviet Union was able to push, then they started getting their hopes up. So in the West, they decided to help them by setting up, by taking a couple more islands, as well as parts close to the coast of Scotland. Then they also managed to take Northern Ireland back, and they were some divisions of German troops over there, but still not really much. Anyway, but back in Africa, the Axis were getting kicked out of Northern Africa as they began to have extremely heavy losses, and they were kicked out of Algeria and then kicked out of their colonies, and now that they were completely kicked out of Africa, Britain done a minor naval invasion to retake Malta. From there, they done a little naval invasion in Sicily, and also from there, they done some in Sardinia and Corsica. But now that it's spring again, Germany was able to push the Soviets back, and this time, they cut off the Caucasus as well as their oil supply from the Soviet Union, which came from down here. But the freaking Germans are stupid because because they could have just told the oil, the people down here, which supplied them with oil, to open up another trade supply route over by here. So that would delay their supply, but it wouldn't cut them off. Now it could do some good by pushing over by here, but not really much. But now it's winter. Well, now it's like summer, and the Soviets got pushed back to the mountains over here, which the Germans had a stalemate because the Soviets actually set up a good defense line there and built lots of defenses. Now at this time, Spain actually joined the Axis, but that was a bad idea for Spain because they took heavy losses before the fascist government was overthrown for a democratic one, which allowed another front for the Germans to worry about down here, as Allied troops started to liberate parts of southern France. Also, Portugal joined in, which helped even more by liberating some more stuff. And since the Germans were basically worrying about a lot of fronts, they basically just abandoned Scotland to build a shorter defense line here. But then Wales was liberated, and now they had to worry about a flanking maneuver from behind, which ended up happening. And they were worried about being encircled, so they managed to evacuate some troops, but not all of them, as some down here were captured. Now, eventually, the Allies took back London, as well as the island here, and Britain was liberated. Now, France, the Allies continued to liberate France, as well as push into Italy, which had to worry about two fronts. And eventually, Italy joined a different side. So they got to have their captured lands back, and now the Germans basically couldn't do nothing except for just wait until they die. So they started to take the lands here. Hungary just took this before a lot of Allied troops, and this time Greece actually joined in. So eventually a lot of Allied troops flooded into Albania, which held the line. And they were able to hold these islands here and push up here, but then the Germans started a major offensive to push them back, which eventually would help them a lot. But they couldn't get into Italy because they made a strong defense line on the Alps, which they were able to push into the French side of the Alps. And eventually connect these two again. But it was kind of a success for Germany. Now back to here, it's back to winter, and the Soviets have started to push them back, and eventually they encircled a massive amount of Germans, And before Germany could punch through their lines, they decided to push them back to the farthest area possible. And I think Stalingrad is somewhere over here. So they pushed them back further from there and pushed them to here. That kind of looks like a mini Belarus. Look, look, it's a Belarus. So they eventually destroyed all those divisions, which done a massive blow to the Germans, which then had heavy losses. And Germany couldn't do nothing anymore, as all they could do was defend, because even in summer they were getting pushed back. But they managed to make a stable defense line around by here, for now at least. Now back to here. D-Day has occurred. It started with the island there, eventually moving into these places. And after that, German troops tried to ask for reinforcements, but Hitler didn't think that this was happening, because why would they do a second front when they would focus on the southern one? Which eventually he woke up and he just woke up to his senses and said, "Oh no, they actually did do one. Shit, and it's too late. Oh no, I'm gonna die." So they decided to evacuate their troops from there, which ended up being a partial success because still a ton of divisions were encircled and destroyed. Now they made a stable defense line there as well as there, but Finland was pushed back until they weren't in the war anymore. So the Soviets ended up taking that until, and then they started to push back the Germans, and they started to liberate Norway. And Germany was starting to lose hope on winning, even though that they done even better than what happened in real life. But they were just not doing it, as more islands were taken, and Sweden also stopped their trade, like blockade them, before they lost Norway, saying that you're being bad boy, and why should we give you our precious metals when you're not doing the right thing? So they ended up giving the ones that they were gonna give to Germany to the Allies, which then Germany declared war on them, and they joined in. Now, after that, they made another defense here, which was even more successful than the last ones that they've done. But over in the eastern defense line has fallen, and Romania surrendered. Same with Bulgaria, because they didn't want that to happen to them. So Bulgaria switched sides, and then Hungary just went. So Germany decided to annex their satellite state, and they got pushed even more, eventually having this encircled. And since they don't have naval supremacy in the Baltics anymore, they would just die there. So they were captured, and they continued to get pushed, getting circled there, and the Soviets started to rapidly expand over to there. Now, on the Western Front, the same was happening, and they were just getting pushed. and there was nothing that they can do. As they were just that the Germans were just falling, and they were just ready to just give up. And then the Soviets decided to capitulate Germany, that they should just head directly for Berlin. And where is Berlin? Why can't I find Berlin? Where the frig is Berlin? Did I already get it? No, it's right there. Okay. So they encircled Berlin, and after the Fuhrer heard that he was encircled inside of his bunker, he just oofed himself. And since they lost their leader, which they would call the Fuhrer, they started to collapse even more, because morale started to decline, and it seems like they couldn't do nothing. And, well, hmm, but anyway. And after that, they done their last offensive that they would do in the war to unencircle Berlin, which was a major success for them. But since they done that, they rapidly fell apart in the west, because they had to pull troops away from the west, which also caused in another encirclement of a lot of their troops that they had over there. And since things are collapsing for the Germans, the Allies started to push, eventually encircling Berlin from the Germans. And eventually, Berlin was divided between the Allies and the Soviets. Well, the Soviets and the United States, Britain and France and stuff. So like the East and the West, let's just say. Eventually, they fell from behind over there, and they kept on fighting though, because they literally did think that they had a chance, but they ended up falling. And eventually, after the war, the peace treaty was made, and well, Germany was divided, Poland was put back, but I am going to just change it up a little bit. Instead of the Germans actually evacuating from over here, they just stayed. They just stayed there. Because this is an alternate one, and I do want to change some things about it. So they did stay there. Memel was taken away from them though. Poland didn't have any sea access, because they just gave that to Germany, because there was a lot of Germans there, and they knew that if they gave it to Poland, then there'll be a lot of uprisings. But the Soviets did promise them that they did get to have some of Lithuania for now, until the Soviets took it back. Yeah. Then Czechoslovakia got to have, well, they got to keep that. But anyway, this is basically the border now. Also, let me just do some more things. Because in that fight, the Allies did take some more of that. So, I just might as well have West Berlin circled because it looks better like that. Anyway, so this is the division of Germany. So this is the end of war peace results. Actually, Hungary did expand into Romania a little bit. Bulgaria got some stuff. Turkey got some stuff. Because they just decided to give that to Turkey. Greece, well, Yugoslavia lost only that, and then this to the Hungarians. They had to lose that to the Austrians to give them naval access. Italy didn't change much, but that is basically the end results of this, and it changed a little bit, but in the end, it basically the Nazis died just like how they died in real life. Also, I wanted them to die too in this alternate one, because I fucking hate them. Anyway, goodbye and have a good day, and I hope you're glad that you have some freedom. Because I have freedom too. And that we should all thank the people who sacrificed themselves for our freedom. I know, also I have a question for, oh, not really a question, more of a thing. I do not support, I'll do it in a later one. You just have to wait and see. No, it's nothing bad. I promise. It's good. I support the communist